So good afternoon, and I'm here today with Cheryl Edwards, who is the founder and the CEO of Inclusion Hampshire. So Cheryl, a very warm welcome to Business Spotlight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
It's a pleasure, Cheryl, and really looking forward to learning more about your story and about Inclusion Hampshire's story as well so far. And Cheryl, perhaps we can begin there. Just tell us a little bit more about yourself, about Inclusion Hampshire, and how long the organisation has been running for.
Yes, so my name's Cheryl Edwards, and as you said, I founded Inclusion just over 15 years ago now, but really didn't sort of take off until about 5 years after that. So we were a community charity and doing all sorts of work in the community, projects to help various disadvantaged groups. And something that was quite apparent at the time was that there were a number of young people who weren't attending school or dropped out of school. So we're talking about sort of 12 years ago now. And we began sort of doing some work within the community neighbourhood centre that I worked in. And as word of mouth grew that I was actually doing some of this work, I had some volunteer teachers and sort of inviting the young people in just for things to eat and somewhere safe to be, and then doing some work with them with some volunteer teachers. When word got out, we started attracting more young people. So it was a bit of a youth club with a difference, I suppose, at the beginning. I started contacting some schools, especially the ones where these children were on roll of. And the schools were really impressed that we'd managed to create a space where these children felt safe enough to come in. They were their hard to reach children. So I started working in partnership with the schools to do a bit more teaching, really, to try and use the advantage of having the young people there where they felt fine and they felt comfortable and they were having something to eat, and actually do a little bit of work with them. And it just grew and grew, really. Within a couple of years, we were working very strongly with about 3 schools, and we had about 10 young people that were coming in for a couple of hours a day. And they would be doing, working towards their maths and English and looking for their next placement, their college placement. So most of them were about 15, around that age. And that's the typical age, I think, years ago, where you had the option to leave school if you wanted. I don't know if you remember that, but I remember in the 80s when I was at school, there was always a swathe of young people that left when they were 15 because they didn't stay on for their O levels or GCSEs.
Completely. Yeah.
A number of reasons for that, but I always remember it was quite a lot of the disadvantaged children that would go, the ones that weren't in the top sets, that type of thing. And nothing had really changed. 10 years ago, that was still kind of happening. A lot's changed since then. And of course, the raise in participation age has gone up. So schools do need to keep their young people on roll, and they need to be doing maths and English until they're 18 now. So it's very important for them to go on to college and for there to be a place for them. But of course, that's mainstream offerings are not always right. And a lot of the very disadvantaged, very children that have been through trauma, mental health issues, they do still tend to drop out. So that's where our niche has always been, in kind of a safety net for some of these young people. And that's how inclusion began, really. Quite different
Wow.
now,
Yeah.
but that's how it began.
And Cheryl, you've partly answered then my next question, which is what makes inclusion unique and stands out. But is there anything else you want to add to that, to clarify that for our audience?
I think what makes us unique is that we're very mental health centred. So
Mhm.
although the children come from a variety of backgrounds, and they have very different stories, very different journeys on how they actually reached us, the commonality is that their mental health is very low, and it's beginning on that continuum of mental health where it's becoming quite serious, and you're going through that high anxiety, that depression, elements of mental health continuum, and you're entering more of like well, but towards kind of hospitalization, really, suicidal thoughts, attempted suicide, early psychosis. So it's a very crucial time in a young person's life, and that seems to be the commonality. The young people that come to us are reaching that point or have reached that point.
Wow. Okay. Some very serious subject matter, isn't it, that you're kind of dealing with and the people that you're helping as well. And so, Cheryl, you've talked a little bit about where you started 15 years ago, but can you tell us more then about the journey really from the beginning, but particularly bringing us up to speed with where inclusion is at right now?
Mm. Well, I was quite determined from the beginning, sort of meeting these young people and getting to know their stories and things. And also from my own experience of remembering when I was at school and, swathes of young people leaving, I just thought there has to be something, we have to do something different. There has to be something for them. And not just a provision, a youth club, not that, that, I mean, that those kind of provisions are amazing, but something more that's recognised within the education picture, really, somewhere where these children can thrive and can progress, but it's not in a mainstream school because that's not worked for them and that's not what they're able to access. So very quickly we started designing. I had started to grow a team. I started to get apply for some funding, and we quickly started designing some spaces. So we were using sorry,
Your dog.
behind now, and started using some village halls and different things like that. We had a centre, like I said, and we started creating these spaces where young people would come in and they wouldn't feel like they're walking into a school or a college, but it's somewhere that we could then work with them and bring a lot of maths and English in various different ways. And yeah, that kind of grew. So my real intention was to try and get these centres recognised, and worked quite closely with the local authority. And like by that time, we were working with about 20 schools. After about 5 years, it's about 20 schools, colleges, who were referring young people to us because they were dropping out of school and college because of their mental health. So our provisions were quite widely recognised, and we built up a really excellent reputation locally. Couldn't really grow much quicker because we just were having so many referrals. But even that was at threat, really. There's a lot, unless you are a school or a college recognised by the government, it's not sustainable. There's always something politically going on that can change our foundations, really. And so it was very important that we got recognition from the Department of Education. So that was then the trajectory we were on from about 2015. And absolutely delighted to say that we achieved that last year. So both our school and our college now approved by the Department of Education. We're just like any other school or college. However, we deliver things very differently, and they're very different spaces to what you would expect in a school and college.
Yeah, and I have the pleasure of visiting you regularly and working with you there as well, Cheryl. And I know how special those spaces are.
Yeah.
And just tell us a little bit about the size then of the school and college now and the number of students you have.
Yeah, so at the moment we're working with about 100 across our pre-16 and our post-16. Our school and our college. So about 100 learners at the moment. That will rise as our teams grow. Um, and also as we go through our Ofsted inspections and then be approved to have more young people on site. So it's a bit of a slow process because there are a lot of young people out there that we want to reach and are being referred to us. But it is the process you have to go through with education and the government to make sure that that everything is being delivered well, the children are well safeguarded and all the rest, really, and they're getting the right education and the right therapy that they need. We've learned and honed our skills over the last 10 years, so we're very, very confident that we are offering what they need, and we hope that that success will prove itself this coming year, and we'll be able to grow.
And so, Cheryl, just to summarize, and that's 100 people or 100 young people that wouldn't really be in education at all if it wasn't for the school and college you're providing. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And many of them have attempted suicide or have had suicidal thoughts. So it's actually quite frightening to think where some of them may not be right now, which is, we have so many parents that are just so grateful for somewhere where their young person can be heard and can be valued and can be brought back into society, really, because a lot of the young people that we work with are very isolated, and especially after COVID, I think we've had more referrals than ever since then, and that has really compounded the mental health of some of the
Wow. So
guys
you,
we work with. Yeah.
so you can do you feel COVID's had a definite acceleration and an impact on and the volume?
Absolutely. It has. I think it's made young people that had mental health issues before, they have escalated during that period, and then it's made it very, very difficult for them to go back. They're not going, it wasn't normal for them before. It's definitely not normal afterwards, and they've missed so much. So that has really compounded to, you know, some of our young people are in the position where they can't even enter a building or can't even leave their houses. You know,
Wow.
so we work with them right the way back in the house with our engagement and pastoral team to then come and visit, to then eventually build up their timetable with us. But it can take a long time, even just for those visits to really happen.
Wow, it's incredible, Cheryl. So looking forward to the future, what are the plans and aspirations for inclusion, and also perhaps some of the challenges that you foresee might come up?
Right. Yes. I mean, I think the aspiration really is to reach as many young people as we can that are in need in areas that do need some school or a college, like inclusion school or college. Um, I think some places are more in need than others, and so it's identifying where those would be, and as I say, kind of trying to help support the variety of organisations that are out there at the moment, trying to reach these young people in need. There's about 100,000 young people that haven't returned to school after COVID. I think
Wow.
that number is a recognised number. That was the Children's Commissioner um, was saying that the other week, the Children's Minister. So there is a huge need for places like us. The challenge really is being able to grow, being able to train your staff teams. I mean, our staff team is multidisciplinary, so we have health workers as well as teachers working together, counsellors, therapists, working together to provide the space and you know the supportive work that we know works. And that takes a long time to build up those skills and be able to go with that. So yeah, so springing up schools is not quite the remedy, the solution, but we will be growing.
And some of that growth, in terms of geography, you've started in Basingstoke, you called
Mm.
Inclusion Hampshire, but you talk about 100,000 across the country. So does that then imply you're looking to expand across the country?
Like I said, I think it's finding partners out there, local authorities, other bigger organisations that could see an inclusion school or inclusion college could benefit their area.
Right.
We're looking to change our charity name, so we become Inclusion Education going forward, so not just limited to Hampshire,
Hmm.
although you know, obviously we'll always have a school and college in Hampshire. So yes, we will be looking wider than where we are right now. Um, and that's within our 5-year plan, really.
Amazing, Cheryl. So Cheryl, thanks for sharing that journey so far and some of those challenges and everything that goes into it. And I guess just what's the team size and the kind of level of funding that you currently have? Just give us a sense of the scale, perhaps, and then we'll move to my
Yes.
next question.
Well, funding's always been difficult.
Hmm.
You know, we started with, I think the first grant was about £10,000, which I thought was amazing back then and is really. And now we're turning over about 2.5 million. So the
Wow.
growth financially has been huge. And training up the teams, started with volunteers. Like I said, some of those have gone on to work for me. And then we've had brought other skill sets in, other professions. So now there's 53 members of staff, probably half and half on the health, therapeutic and teaching side. So it's really lovely to see those dynamics and all those different professionals working together to reach the outcomes with the young people, which always successful because they are very good at what they do. So we're very lucky in that respect. It works because what we do is very bespoke as well. We make sure that it works for individuals. It's not a one size fits all. Some young people need a lot more therapy than others, and others need a lot more kind of self-confidence and self-esteem building within their educational journey. So they're all at different paces and all at different places within that.
Great. Wow. You should be so proud. I'm sure you are, Cheryl, of everything that you've achieved. And I
Absolutely.
know you have an amazing team behind you, and it's a significant size team as well, isn't it, now that you
Yes,
have?
it is.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So Cheryl, just changing tack a little bit, with all your experience so far, if you were to pull out one lesson, just one, in your business experience so far, what would that be? One to share with our spotlight audience.
I think it's keeping true to your vision. If you have that vision, you know, you believe that that is going to work, that's what you want to do, and you have that passion for that vision, just don't ever let go of it, because you'll get there eventually. If you know that that is something that's needed, or it's a business that's going to, you know, fill a gap, keep going with it, because you get so many people saying that you can't do this or that won't work, or, you know, for lots of reasons. You know, a lot of ours was because there wasn't money around, and so therefore we can't support what you're doing because the education system has no money. Well, we know, just kept that, we know these children need help, so we have to keep going. And it's worked out for us, which is wonderful. But I think, you know, that's what I say to my children now, and the children that we work with, is, you know, you have that vision of where you want to be in life, and you keep going with it, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise, because people get to those goals in various ways. You don't have to go the route everybody else goes through. So just keep going and you'll get there.
Brilliant. That's a great share. On
Yeah.
a similar theme, it's very similar, but if you were to go back and meet 18-year-old Cheryl, what's one piece of advice you would give her about being in business, or just starting out in life or in a career? Anything that comes to mind?
I think, again, it's got to be around self-belief and believing in yourself, really. I think, you know, just from the experiences some of our young people have had within their education, and within their lives, and they have so many people telling them that they can't do this, they can't do that, they're never going to be good enough, you're not going to get this result, you haven't got this result, so therefore you can't go on and do this. It really knocks you. And I had similar at school. You know, I was never the brightest, so it was always like, you've got to work harder, you're not going to be able to get to here, you're not going to be able to do that. And really, it's not about your qualifications. There's a human is a whole package. And you know, believe in yourself. You will have something unique about you. You will have skills that you can pick up and hone better than others, and you'll make it. But you have to believe in yourself, and hopefully have people around you that can do that for you too.
Yeah, no, that's
Surround
brilliant.
yourself with those people. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that as well. So belief in yourself and a great vision, and stick with it, and don't be
I
deterred.
think so.
So two great things. Thank you, Cheryl. So then my next question is really, what inspires you to keep doing what you do?
I think now, seeing the school and college in action, every time I walk through those doors, it makes me emotional, because it's something we wanted for so long, and you know, dreamed of. I used to dream of it. Never really thought it'd ever be possible. But seeing that in action now, and seeing some of our children, you know, the joy that, you know, that's something that we that's one of our big values, is that we find and help those young people find joy in anything. So to see that joy happening, progression happening, it just keeps, yeah, I just think, you know, we can do more. There's so much scope out there, really, to help more people, and see this happening in other places. That keeps going.
That keeps you going. Yeah, great. So Cheryl, is there any upcoming news you want to share with our Spotlight audience about any developments with inclusion?
Well, we're, like I said, looking for new areas to expand into, potentially. If there is anybody that's listening to this and knows, has contacts within local authorities, and you know that that's one of their aims, is to improve young people's mental health in that area. You know, I'd absolutely love to have a conversation about that.
Great. Well, I can put your email in our YouTube description that we'll write for, that goes along with this, so people can contact you directly as well.
Thank you. That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
So Cheryl, that's been great getting to know a little bit more about, you know, inclusion, about your journey so far, and all those amazing plans for the future as well, and just the great support, brilliant support that you're providing, certainly currently the community here in Hampshire as well. So thank you for that then, Cheryl, and we'll let you get on with your day.
Thank you very much. Have a great day yourself. Thank you. Bye-bye.